My sinister hand, it's almost Halloween, so I'm gonna show you how I built this monstrosity. My girlfriend and I wanted to up our Halloween game this year, so we looked at our front yard and we did some brainstorming. We finally landed on an idea for a giant spider tableau. We wanted a huge spider crawling around our avocado tree and a massive web with a few unwitting victims in it. We also wanted to do it on the cheap, so we started with what we already had on hand. I had a bunch of PVC pipe I figured I could use for the spider's legs. I also had some black spray paint that would come in handy. Next, we scoured thrift stores to see what would inspire us. We lucked out and found this weird ghost pepper beanbag thing that would make a perfect abdomen of a spider. We found some little kids storage box that looked like it would make a good spider head as well. We also found some ping pong balls that we could cut in half for eyes, Muppet style. We only found 2, so we ended up buying another pack from Amazon later. Next, we took a trip to the hardware store and got some various supplies. Red spray paint for the eyes, some foam pipe insulation that we'd use for parts of the legs and fangs, a bunch of electrical tape, and a piece of 2x4. From Amazon, we ordered some sculpting wire, 4 gauge, and we got a couple rolls of duct tape. First step was to cut all the leg segments to length. I decided on a 3-segment leg, even though in reality I think spiders have 4 segments per leg. 2 segments would be PVC and 1 would be foam. The longer PVC pipe would be cut to 30 inches and the shorter PVC pipe would be cut to 17 inches. And then I spray painted all the PVC black. For that 3rd segment, I cut 4-inch pieces of foam and cut them in half lengthwise. Each piece would yield 2 talons. Then we taper maybe halfway, right about there. I tapered each one to give them a little point. Next, I cut the 2x4 into 2 small blocks. These I would sandwich onto the little flap of felt on the ghost pepper. I pre-drilled 4 holes for the wire of the legs to go through. I spray painted the wooden blocks black, and then after they dried, I attached them to the pepper. I measured out 4 pieces of wire to 124 inches and found the center mark of each. I also marked 1.5 inches on either side of the center mark, and this was going to help me center up the legs as I fed them through the wooden block. And this gave me the base for the spider's legs. I then slid on the PVC segments. Cutting small segments of foam, I added them to the joints in between, wrapping them with electrical tape. Then I added the foam talons, and I wrapped them in electrical tape just like the joints. The legs turned out not as posable as I'd hoped. Maybe I should have used heavier gauge wire, or perhaps used something not as heavy as the PVC. I'm not sure. Anyways, to help combat this, I added some screws where the wires met the wood. This helped them from flipping around so wildly. We needed to wrap the ghost pepper so that it was all black. At first, we tried some ground covering material that we had on hand, but that didn't work so well. It bunched up too much and there was no easy way to attach it. Then my girlfriend came up with a great idea of just wrapping it in black duct tape. This worked out rather well. Then came time to attach the head. Luckily, the lid of the storage box came off and I would attach it to the wooden block with 4 screws. Then I could just pop the box back on. I made 2 fangs in a similar way as the talons. I cut 2 pieces of foam to about 6 inches and cut triangles out to give them that taper. I then wrapped them in electrical tape. After that, I cut a piece of wire to put inside each. This allowed me to bend the fangs and give them a little shape. I hot glued the fangs onto the head. Earlier, I had cut some ping pong balls in half and spray painted them red. These would be the eyes. I used hot glue to attach those to the head as well. Seeing how unwieldy this thing was becoming, I decided to put a couple of eye hooks in the back of the wooden block. I did this in case we ended up needing to hang the spider or hoist him up. Then came the final touches. We bought some furry fabric to make little accents on the spider and contrast the shiny, sleek parts of the arachnid. We glued small patches of fur on the joints and on the back of his head. We also added some on the underbelly to hide the wooden block and the wires. The next step was to make his monstrous web. The old school way of doing spider webs is to use cotton, of course, but I learned a tip from a channel called Wicked Makers. I'll link their video in the description below and you should definitely check it out. Their tip was to use something called beef netting. You can order it from TrentonMills.com. It comes in this big roll. What we did was unroll a length of it, usually about 8 or 9 feet, and cut it. Then, because this stuff is actually a tube, we needed to cut down one side of it to end up with one big flat piece. After some trial and error, we devised a little method. One of us would hold one side of it and pull it taut. The other person would start the cut with scissors, then switch over to a box cutter. With the right amount of tension on the netting, you can just touch the box cutter to it and it cuts right through. After we had our nice flat piece, we pinned up 2 sides to the spikes of our back gate. Pulling the webbing tight, we then took a pair of scissors to it. Stabbing it randomly opens up holes. And we found the more varied the hole sizes, the more realistic the web started to get. After all the maniacal stabbing is done, it's ready to hang. We made about 9 of these. I knew I wanted my giant spider to have a human victim. I could have bought a dummy or a mannequin or something, but since it was all going to be wrapped in a beef netting cocoon, it could be made of virtually anything. We bought a small foam head for about $5 from Joann's, and we had some old plastic planters out back that weren't being used, so I figured they could serve as shoulders and hips. So that'll be our hanging person. I screwed the head to one of the pots and fed some wire through the other one to act as legs. I wrapped the wire legs with some foam to give them a little more girth. Then I sandwiched an old pillow in between the 2 planters. I also glued some foam arms on the sides. Then we took some old sheets and wrapped the body. We did this to give more thickness to the corpse before the beef netting went on. It also allowed us to use a lot less beef netting. At the feet, I attached a small piece of wood with a metal hook in it. This would help us to hang the victim. That done, I hoisted the corpse up and let it hang to aid in our wrapping of the cocoon. Then it was time to put it all together. We hung our giant spider up in the tree and posed his legs to make it look like he was climbing down. We hung our victim from a nearby branch. And finally, we arranged all of our beef netting to form a creepy labyrinth of a spider web. And that was it. I'm pretty happy with the result, though I would definitely design the legs differently next time. They were a lot more floppy than I would have liked. We did make a few tweaks a couple days later. I wasn't completely happy with the fangs. They seemed more ant-like than spider-like. So I made them thicker, covered them with fur, and poked some wire through the ends to give them sharp points. Also, we decided to elevate the abdomen a lot more so that an observer would see more of the spider's shape. And as perfect as the ghost pepper beanbag was for the shape of an abdomen, if I did this project again, I'd probably make it out of paper mache or something and feed a PVC pipe through the center. That would allow me to feed some string or fishing line through it and out the back for hanging. That way, the spider actually looks like it's hanging from a silk thread coming out of its spinneret. So there you have it. That's how we built this crazy giant spider tableau. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. It helps me grow the channel and make more videos like this. Thanks for watching.